How do I tell my manager I'm autistic? Recently diagnosed, always suspected, without them seeing it as an excuse. I'm trying so hard, but I keep missing deadlines or just not getting the work to the level it should be because I get overwhelmed and freeze. I'm scared they think I'm not cut out for this. I hate meetings, and some days my brain just doesn't work. I see others killing it, and it's hard for me not to compare.
Mm. Comparison is such a common thing for humans to do, and it's probably one of the most unhelpful things for humans to do. So I get it. And the ideal thing would be is to just, it's like with social media, right? We don't look at the comments because the majority of them are going to be nasty and rude and whatever. So we can just kind of look at our race that we're running. Now, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an employment lawyer or, specialist in that area or a HR person. However, there are legal requirements within Australia to have some flexible workplace arrangements that are related to, needs within the workplace. So if it was ever to be something that you wanted to, so first of all, you don't have to tell your boss anything. If you want to tell your boss that, you can. And the law protects you to not be negatively impacted by that. It might be that organization, the requirements that are needed in that organization might not necessarily align with you. And that's not a you thing or a them thing. It's just a partnership thing, right? When a person and an organization just doesn't really fit, it might be that maybe we need to start looking at some different places or some different teams. Though the question was, how do I tell my manager? Directly. I mean, if you want to tell them, you can just organize a meeting. And if you want to as well, you have the right to take a support person with you into that meeting as well. So if there's someone that you would like to take with you and to have that conversation with your manager, if you feel confident and comfortable with your manager, then I think it's a great thing to tell them. A lot of neurodiversity is linked to creativity. So if there's an industry that, I use a word that I don't like using, but should be excited about someone having neurodiversity in their team, then the creative industry is really where we would want to see that as our home. When autism is it's a different way in terms of the brain's neural pathways, right? The way that it thinks, the way that the brain works is just simply different. So you're freezing or feeling overwhelmed is actually a very common thing for people who have neurodiversity. So knowing that this isn't your fault, it just is. It's just a different sort of way of being, right? So we kind of want to take off our judgment pants and put on our reality pants and just go, okay, well, hang on a minute. This is where we're at. This is what we've got. How can we work together and make it a collaborative conversation with the manager?
Excellent. Sarah, do you want to add anything there?
Yeah, I feel like this question was a really good question. And I agree with what Tara said, and especially around the creative industry, there are lots of neurodivergent people. And I think that, that divergence in thinking, fosters such amazing ideas, and being able to think out of the box and, in one way, in the work itself is so important. So I think, I personally think neurodiversity is a huge strength. And I feel like everyone in my life is neurodivergent in some way, shape or form. I'm probably undiagnosed something, I would imagine. So I definitely think that talking to your manager, having a one-on-one, again, you don't have to, you don't actually legally have to share any information. But if you're feeling overwhelmed and it sounds like, you're missing deadlines and freezing and that must be stressful just in itself. Like, if you're anything like me or, most creatives, like we want to do a really good job of the work. And so you're freezing and not able to ask the right questions or not being in an environment, it could be sensory overwhelm and overload. There could be noises or lights or things that could be dimmed and adjusted. So it would be like a healthier, more productive environment for you. And those little things can make such a big difference. And they're pretty easy in the grand scheme of things, noise cancelling headphones, so many things that, could be creating a more positive environment. And I think if your manager is anything like the way that we think about neurodiversity, I think that they'll welcome the conversation and just want to make better systems to support you. Because I think, yeah, you're going to bring your own amazing ideas that maybe a neurotypical couldn't even look at the problem in that way. So there's so many strengths. And I think leaning into strengths-based work is really important as well. And that goes for anyone. If you put me in finished art for 5 days, I probably will look like very stressed. It's not my strong suit, and the work wouldn't be very good. Whereas if you put me in strategy and co-design or something regarding people, I'm going to do a really good job. So I think whoever's listening to this, if you're a manager or an employee, I think that trying to tailor the work as much as you can to bring out your unique strengths within the creative industry is really important, and getting the most out of your team by tailoring that as much as you can. Obviously briefs come in and that's got to be done. But I think, that's what we try and do at Story. So like, some people don't like meetings and actually don't have to go to the meetings, and that's fine.
Brilliant. Not only great advice here, but also quite a few comments and links being shared in the chat as well. So, as Tara mentioned, there's legislation around this in terms of, that's intended to protect you, should you not get a good response. However, obviously there's, what you choose to do with that and how small businesses sometimes can react to that is never kind of guaranteed. There's also good links to resources. So the Media Federation of Australia quite generously did a whole bunch of work around psychosocial safety at work, and then made all of that free for the industry to access. So I've popped that link in there as well. So there's lots of good stuff there. I think the other thing is that when you're going to tell your manager something like that, just tell them what it means for you, and tell them how you can still work and still do great work if they can help you with this. Or if you are reacting one way when something happens, it doesn't mean that suddenly you're in crisis or suddenly you can't do your work. It's just how you handle things, and that, things are going to be okay, because they will not know as much about your diagnosis as you do. So being able to help and kind of educate them with that is a good way of doing it.